Then we did this team building camps. They were 2, maybe 3 days long. Normally a lot of efforts to make you tired. Because see, when we sitting in the sun, sipping cappuccinos, everybody's happy, friendly and polite. But after a 10-hour march through a stupid forest in Denmark, and then it's 4 a.m., and they tell you, no, you cannot sleep. You got to put up the base camp and you got to start a fire. And you have to have 2 people awake for the fire to be alive, right? To don't burn down the entire forest. Then people show their true character because they wouldn't give you food. You would have enough water, but no food. People were starving and tired and a lack of sleep. That is when everybody shows his true character and his true face. You know, do the people live up to the challenge? Do they break down? Do they run away? Do they become selfish? Do they become team leaders or team players? Because you need to know how people react in a crisis situation.
This is Andrew Vontz, and you're listening to Choose the Hard Way, the show about how hard things build stronger humans who have more fun, humans like you, and like my guest today, Jens Voigt. I've been putting Choose the Hard Way out since 2018, and whether this is your first episode or your 138th, I appreciate you listening. Please take a moment to share this episode with your pals, and to help Choose the Hard Way keep growing, please hit 5 stars and subscribe wherever you listen or watch. It just takes a second, and I really appreciate it, and so does everyone who finds this show. The number one thing you can do to support this project and help me bring you more of these conversations is to become a paid subscriber to the Choose the Hard Way Substack. That's at alwaysthehardway.substack.com, or just search for Choose the Hard Way on Substack. During the 18 years Jens Voigt spent as a pro cyclist, he started the Tour de France 17 times. During those 17 starts, he won 2 stages of the Tour de France, and he wore the leader's yellow jersey, which is a pretty amazing thing for a support rider. And he also won a stage at the Giro d'Italia. And at the age of 43, he set the hour world record. In a sport full of hard men and women, Jens is one of the hardest of the hard. Yes, a legendary support rider, and also one of the biggest stars the sport's ever seen. He, of course, famously coined the tagline, "Shut up, legs." Today, Jens is a frequent TV commentator on pro cycling, and as a married father of 6 children, is an expert in logistics, ops, and team management. At 54, this guy somehow looks like he's still 30, and trust me, he can ride a bike like a World Tour pro, like he just stepped out of the Tour de France yesterday. I thought I knew everything about Jens. Then I got to spend a few days with him at the Tour de Tucson prologue, and I heard more of his story and some things that I had just never heard him talk about before, and I knew I had to have him on the show. In this conversation, we explore everything from Jens's childhood and upbringing in rural former East Germany to his path through a state-run sports academy that ended up with him entering the World Tour and becoming a household name around the world. This is Jens like you've never heard him before. Scripted and robotic is out, real is in. The communication landscape has changed, and yesterday's media training just doesn't work. That's why I started One Real Voice, to provide the training and narrative development senior executives, professional athletes, and political leaders need to thrive in the dynamic, open-ended communication formats that are now mission critical for their roles. Whether you need to be great on podcasts, panels, or in front of the company or your team, when you work with One Real Voice, I'll coach you to be a confident and effective communicator using a methodology that's grounded in behavioral science, applied high performance, and the thousands of reps I've had as a professional storyteller and executive over the past 28 years. When you're ready to be great, DM me at HardwayPod or email hello@onerealvoice.com. You guessed it, find those links in the show notes. With over $1 trillion in transactions to date, blockchain.com is your trusted partner on your crypto journey. Go to blockchain.com to get started today. No experience required. Lauf is the Apple of bike design. They make elegant products that just work better than everything else, and they're a lot of fun to ride. My Uthold and my Segla are two of my favorite bikes I've ever owned. Always look forward to getting out and riding my Laufs. You can find them at laufcycles.com. Find me on Instagram at HardwayPod, and find Jens at the Yenzi. Within professional cycling teams, when everybody has a role, you have a team leader, and then of course your contract and your financial future is dependent upon getting results. What's it like when you're with a group of guys you're spending that much time with when that's the situation?
Cycling has gotten better with that, because you cannot ask a loyal domestic to work all day long, give up all his chances, and of course explode on the last climb because he was working until then. And then on paper, by the end of the year, he has 0 results. But he has done 5,000 miles on the head of the peloton. That also accounts for something. So many years, these people were not paid well, but people nowadays realize without a loyal helper, we would be nothing. Imagine how shit a team would be with 8 Cavendishes and nobody else, or 8 Chris Frommes, or 8 Armstrongs, or 8 Andy Schlecks, or 8 of myself. That would be a shit team. You need people for each type of job. Helpers, climbers, sprinters, rounders, workers. You need all of that in the team. And in modern times, teams realize, okay, we have to give them some respect. They work hard. They give up all their chances to make the leader look good. So we have to pay them for the efforts they do, for the loyalty they show to us. And we have to be now, by the end of the year, when it comes to renegotiating another contract, we have to be loyal back to the riders. They gave us an entire year of their life for us, for our goals, for our captain. So that works really well in more modern cycling. Interesting or funny thing is the biggest compliment me as a helper I could get in the Tour de France, if Carlos Sastre or Andy Schleck would come home and go, that was a boring day, nothing happened. Then you have done the most perfect job. You kept your captain out of all stressful situations. Crashes, close crashes, crosswind sections, fighting for position. If your boss says, oh, that was a boring day, nothing happened, you have done the perfect job. That is the biggest compliment you can have. If the boss goes, nah, nothing happened, then you have protected him in the most perfect way. But a good captain always says thank you to you after a day like that, or after any day, in the good and in the bad. That is also something that has become better in the later years, that team captains realize, no, I might get the spotlight, but I would never get into the spotlight without the other guys helping me. So I have to say thank you to them.
Jens, people watching the sport, when they look at riders who are going for victories in Grand Tours, it's hard to understand, I think, for the average person, perhaps, how many years of effort have gone into just being in that position to go for a Grand Tour win, and then what you have to do as a leader and psychologically to lead the team and also navigate the pressure of that situation. What is it actually like for those team leaders in that seat?
Well, first of all, if I take my own example, I started at the age of 9, almost 10. Let's say I started at 10. First Tour de France I did at the age of 20. Yeah, I guess almost 28. So it took me 17 years of cycling before I actually entered my first Tour de France. So that's a long, long way of waiting, patience, and discipline. For a leader for a Tour de France, your Tour de France basically starts, I guess, 1st of October the latest. So October, November, December, some hard days, basement miles, do recon. The road is out. You know where to go. So you do some recon on a TT, on a finish line to see if there's a tricky corner or steep little hill that wasn't really on the profile. You start thinking about what type of team do I need for this Tour de France with the mountains, the crosswinds, or if there's a gravel section in there, if there's a Paris-Roubaix stage in there, you might consider a classics rider within your team to protect you on that particular day. So you think about a strategy. Well, yeah, and then training, and okay, I need to be able to push, let's say, 550 watts for 10 minutes, and then I could be maybe winning material. How do I get there? What body weight do I need to have on day one? Add my power output. Then you train until there, right? So you make a plan. I want to be top fit here. And then I go back. Where do you need to be 1 week ahead, 1 month ahead, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months ahead? Basically, yeah. Beginning of October, I guess, you have your break. And the tour winner normally does not go to Japan Cup and all these races. They are like far by the end of the season. Pogacar has a long season with Lombardia, but often the tour winner stops a little earlier because it is demanding. Then you do your wind tunnel testing. Maybe there's a new bike model out, maybe new shoes from your sponsor, and you need to try them, make sure they work. Press, sponsor obligations. So it is pretty much a full-time job for months and months. And then you make your plan with the team. The team decides finally, but I guess they ask the leader, hey, what do you think? We have 2 spots left for 3 or 4. What do you think? Which one you prefer? Then, yeah, you might need to break somebody's heart. Because if 2 people fight for the last spot, you like them both. They're your teammates. They're your friends. But one of them has to stay home. And so that is also some tough decisions there to make. So they do feel a lot of pressure. And therefore, it is so much easier if you are the second leader or the lieutenant, like we saw it with Ayuso, for example, or Lipovets this year. The German, he came not out of nowhere, but, people looked at Roglic, and Roglic had to give the interviews. So Lipovets was just quiet, calm, after the finish line, in the bus, take a shower, don't talk to the press, easy peasy. Next year it will be different. They will expect him to be the captain and maybe run another podium. That is a different game than being the surprise package. So the leader not only has to be the best rider he can be, but you also got to have broad shoulders to take the pressure and the load of the responsibility. And also, in the Tour de France, you got 7 other guys. They are willing to turn themselves inside out for you. So you better deliver, right? I mean, they all trained to help you. They lost the winning spirit maybe. They lost the edge to attack, to do the sprint for themselves, to go on the mountain stages for themselves, because their only job is to help the leader. And if the leader then finishes 15th or doesn't even finish the tour, that's hard for the team to take as well. So there is enormous pressure on the team leader.
And Jens, I know that during your time with Bjarne Riis, part of what he brought into the sport was a more human-centered approach to running a team and really thinking about the full spectrum of his athletes as people and some of their emotional needs. How did that approach help build a better team?
See, every team, at least if the sun is shining, goes, hey, we got great team spirit, we like each other, we work well together, until the shit hits the fan. And then things fall apart. I remember like yesterday, basically, first time in a team training camp where I was one of the new ones in the team, end of 2003. So we get the new riders integrated in the team, into the structure. And the first speech of Bjarne finished with the words, he goes, guys, listen, I'm not only here to make you better riders. I want you to become better human beings with me. And that's a big approach. That's a big call. I want to make you better humans, you know? I'm like, wow, I like that. So then we did this team building camps. People call them survival camps, but team building, you know? They were 2, maybe 3 days long. Normally a lot of efforts to make you tired. Because see, when we sitting in the sun, sipping cappuccinos, everybody's happy, friendly, and polite. But after a 10-hour march through a stupid forest in Denmark, and then it's 4 a.m., and they tell you, no, you cannot sleep. You got to put up the base camp and you got to start a fire. And you have to have 2 people awake for the fire to be alive, right? To don't burn down the entire forest, but also to have the fire ready when the rest awakes in 2 hours sleep for coffee. Then people show their true character because they wouldn't give you food. You would have enough water, but no food. People were starving and tired and a lack of sleep. That is when everybody shows his true character and his true face. You know, do the people live up to the challenge? Do they break down? Do they run away? Do they become selfish? Do they become team leaders or team players? Because you need to know how people react in a crisis situation. And that's why we had these team building camps. For example, once we had our team doctor and he was just a little older and had a sore back. So basically, after 5 minutes of the entire 2-day trip, he said, look, I cannot carry this backpack. So we ripped this backpack apart and everybody took something extra. So he was just walked next to us without a backpack because we couldn't leave the stuff behind, right? So we had to put it on other team members. They had to work harder because they were younger and fitter so that the older or weaker person could come with us. And we were not allowed to leave anybody behind. So then normally we would start these camps with a well-grown-up person or rider. And then after 2 or 3 hours, very often the captain role of the teams of 5 or 10 or 15 people groups, you know, also the mechanics, the masseurs, the people from the office, the team doctors, the press officer, everybody had to go through. And then the next captain role would go to a neo-professional. And you know how hard it is? You're 22 years old, and you go, hey, Cancellara, I know you're Olympic champion, but you go and get the firewood. Jens Vogt, I know you got 6 kids and you're 40 years old, but you gotta go and get water for us. You know how hard that is for a young kid? But then you gotta go, hey, listen, we are in this. You are the boss. So tell us what to do. We will follow up. That is your responsibility. And then the kids grow up like that as well because they know we support them, right? So it was really a valuable lessons always we learned within these survival camps.
A lot of leaders say that they care about the people who work for them and that they want to make them better human beings. Actually doing that and actually caring about the people you lead is a very different thing. And with Bjarne, for example, Jens, was there a time that you were struggling on the team or you had a really rough day? And how did Bjarne interact with you when that happened?
So see, well, that's just a funny little story. The day that Frank Schleck won the stage in the Tour de France up Alpe, we were in a breakaway, Zabriskie, myself, and Frank Schleck. So we saved Frank for the last climb. Zabriskie and me did all the working. It was a bigger group. And in some of these tunnels in the Alps, it was wet, dark. I was sliding a little bit towards the outside, and my hip and my shoulders touched the wall, right? Nothing happened. I stayed upright, but then I had a little cut where the hip bone is under the skin, right? Because the skin got squeezed between the wall of the tunnel and the hip bone. Like, I don't know, maybe, 2-3 centimeters long. And then in the team bus, the doctor checks that, and Bjarne comes looking, and because it was split open, goes, oh, Jens, I can see your liver. Your liver. I'm like, Bjarne, no, that is the meat. That's the muscle underneath the skin. That's not my liver. Relax. So the doctor stitched it up. But for example, when I don't even know which year that was anymore, but I did for fun a cyclocross race, right? And on an obstacle, I hesitated. I should have either clearly jumped off and run, or do not hesitate and just jump. But I hesitated too long and I crashed on an obstacle. And I had a, no, not dislocated shoulder. There's 3 ligaments that hold the collarbone together, and they were broken apart. So the collarbone was not broken, but it was sticking up like this because the ligaments holding him in. Anyway, so I'm like, geez, I need an operation. That's not good. So I called Bjarne. Bjarne goes all silent. I was so terrified, Bjarne goes all silent. And then I can hear him a little bit giggling. And he goes, you know what, Jens? This might be actually the best thing ever for you. Now you are forced to go a little slower into the season, and you will be at the best ever at the Tour de France. And It worked out really well. So Bjarne would not see the crisis, the problem first, but the solution in it, the light at the end of the tunnel. So Bjarne was a good team owner, a good team boss, I really have to say.
What was Bjarne like when he lost his temper? Did you ever see him lose it?
Yeah, when he started to have the skin fold here, then okay, I better run for the hills, or I be quiet, or I better have a really good case if I speak against him now. My case got to be absolute important or valuable to me, so that Bjarne can understand, even if he is mad. He wouldn't lose the temper, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 times a year. But then, everybody in the trenches.
Jens, going back to 2009, I know you and I talked about this a bit at the Tour de Tucson. You have this wreck, and it kind of came from out of nowhere. Could you walk us through what happened and your level of confidence before that wreck and after?
Well, that day was the descent of the Petit Bernard. I was in a front group, then got called back to help Andy Schleck-Caldas-Sastre in the group. So on top of the climb, I was in a group with, I believe, Alberto Lenz, Wiggins, Frank, Andy, Caldas-Sastre, and myself. So on the downhill, I'm in the front, and then I can hear Bjarne in the radio. He goes, hey, Jens, you don't have to work all the time. Just sit back, come back, relax a little. So the last thing I remember is I'm drifting back to the last position of the group, and the last thing I remember is my thought, let's go and get some fresh water bottles for the boys and myself, and then we try to win the stage. And then the next thing I remember briefly for like 30 seconds, I'm laying on my back in a world of pain, and I'm looking at the ceiling of the ambulance car. And then I go, okay, just by pure logic, I must have crashed. I don't remember, I don't know anything, but I must have crashed. If I'm laying in an ambulance and I cannot move, I must have crashed somehow. Then I lose memory again. Then I remember something. They wheel me back out of a smaller hospital because they said, look, this is too heavy. We are a little countryside hospital. We cannot deal with this. Then I remember they wheel me back out. I can hear the helicopter. And then I lose it again for at least another hour. Then I remember I'm in surgery on the table, and I can see 2 teams stitching, one team stitching my left hand together, the other team stitching my right hand together. And I can feel people disinfecting my face to start stitching me up here. And I think, hey, I'm still awake. Don't stitch me up. I'm still awake. I'm not asleep. And then boom, I was gone again. And then finally, 11 p.m. or midnight, I'm out of anesthetics. I'm out of surgery. My brain starts working again. And then I asked somebody, Bjarne left some team member with me to make sure I'm at least alive and okay. The Danish soldier who was always with us, B.S. Christensen, he was also organizing these team building camps, and he was our mentor, bodyguard, friend, and he stayed with me. So I said, "Hey, BS, can I have your phone? I need to call my wife." And then around midnight, I called my wife, said, "Hey, Stephanie, listen, I am really, really beat up, but I remember your name and my name. We are married. I remember all the names of the children. I'm good. I just need time to repair and recover. But nothing is broken beyond repair." And, hearing my wife in like joy of happiness, but also bitterness that I crashed. So I don't remember too much of it. Confidence, it took me 12 weeks, the doctors told me it needs 12 weeks before I could go back on a bike, because I had a blood clot in my brain, about 2 centimeters, like a little ball, and I just needed time to heal. So first training was in the rehabilitation swimming pool in the hospital, because they thought I might faint or crash. And then 2 or 3 days of that, I was allowed to walk around the clinic building, like 5-minute walk. So things would be building up slowly, but steady. Confidence level, I started with the Tour of Missouri after that, my next race. And it was good. Smaller peloton, large roads in the US, no cobblestones, no small roads. So that was as safe as it gets to come back into the race. So that was good. That helped me. But yeah, ever since then, I left my comfort level when we hit 65 to 70 kilometers an hour. I would call them the bone breaker descents. If it's 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour, or you have switchbacks where you then slow down to almost walking speed in the sharp switchback. If you crash, it hurts, but that's about it. If you have a descent 70, 80, 90, with the sweeping turns where you don't have to brake, if you crash there, that has severe consequences. So I never liked these sort of descents after that, the bone breaker ones. When you crash, you break a bone. That's why I call it a bone breaker descents. It took me a while to get step by step closer to my former limits. And I kept telling myself, be rational. 20 or 50 riders can take this turn at this speed. Just by pure logic and pure physics, you can do that as well. Because none of them crashed ahead of you, so there is enough grip and you can do it. I did read the Dune books way back then. And that one quote is in English, I think, fear is a mind killer. And that's what it does. Die Angst tötet das Bewusstsein. Fear makes you stiff on a bike, makes you panic, makes you take wrong decisions. That's bad. You can have respect for it, but if you have fear and panic, you're more likely to crash than to make it. So I try to control myself. Breathe clearly, slowly, controlled, breathe deep into your belly, and just trust that if 20 guys can take this turn, you can do that. But it's easier to talk about it than actually to do it. So yeah, confidence level was, just simply a little less. Because, I was also a little bit older by then. I could see the end of my career approaching. I had children. I didn't want to go out as a cripple or losing my life. I had children. I have a cool family. I want to see them and enjoy time with them. So that's another reason why I did break a little earlier after that crash, because I thought about the family. To finish, if you look at the crash, because I was in a group with all the big hitters, so the cameras were there. There's really sharp images, a video clip of me crashing. After you stop laughing and shaking your hand, listen to this. You will see then, yeah, that makes sense. So here it comes. The only thing, if you look at my crash, the way it happens, that I don't react at all, it comes out of nowhere. The only reason why I crash that would tick all the boxes is I was unconscious first and crashed because of that. I didn't crash because I lost the balance, because on a video clip, it doesn't look like I lose the balance. I just fall down like a bag. like no reaction. So really, if you look at it again, also for the viewers and listeners, YouTube, Jens Vogt, Tour de France crash 2009, and you will see tons of videos. Really, if you look at it, it almost looks like I was unconscious first, and that's why I crashed. But I don't know. As I say, I don't have too much memories of it, and I don't want these memories back.
Following the wreck, when you were on the bike, you're in these scenarios where you're on a bone breaker descent. As you said, fear is a mind killer. Were there any specific physical sensations you experienced on a descent, the wind hitting you a certain way, something coming into your mind, seeing something on the road that would trigger the fear? Was there anything specific?
Just the speed. When you did hear the wind at a certain speed, noises, that would trigger, you would know that you are too fast for being comfortable. And how our human mind is sometimes so stupid. Exactly in that moment when you don't need it, you go, what if there's a stupid goat just behind the turn? Or there's a car parked, or a crazy fan is running onto the street to collect a water bottle from a superstar, and I come flying around the corner when that fan is in the middle of the road. You know, if there's a deer or a cow, we have seen all of that. You know, or what if there's not an avalanche, but, a few rocks rolling onto the road. That's good enough. If you're on the limit of your grip, you got these two little silky tires. If you hit a rock, of course the tire goes. So all these things come to your mind. What if? And you go, no, don't touch the brakes. Don't touch the brakes. You would put your hands firmly around the handlebar. Go, no, I'm not going to open my fingers to touch the brake. No, I'm not. So it's a constant battle with yourself, try to be firm on the bike, but relaxed enough that you could follow the flow, breathe deep into your belly, and try to stay as relaxed as possible.
As a young person, you had a lot of extra energy, and for you, that resulted in you ending up going to sports school in what we in the United States know as East Germany. What was that system like?
Quite sophisticated and quite expensive for the government because they put a lot of resources in there. So since I am from the other side of the Iron Curtain, they told us we would be diplomats in training suits. Our objective was to show the mean Western countries how superior our system is because we also produce superior athletes. That was what the party told us. The Communist Party or Socialist Party, whatever they call themselves. So at the age of 13, we had to undergo a series of tests. The same series of tests 3 times. Somewhat in April the first time, in June second time, and in August for the third time. We would start with 150 kids, 50 kids for the second round, 35 kids started the last test system, and 12 of us went to the sports school. So it was a 10-kilometer time trial, a 100-meter sprint on the road with like a speed start. On the track, because we were only 13, 2-kilometer individual pursuit, 500-meter standing start, and 1 fast sprint lap on the track. Then we had to run 3 kilometers. We had to sprint 100 meters. No, back then even 60 meters only. We had an agility test where you had to climb over fences and dive underneath and move forwards and backwards. We had kind of like a skill test, parkour on the bike, like small obstacles, riding in circles. And we had a fitness test. It's like a circle where you had 30 seconds to do as many chin-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, and all that, jumps and whatnot, within 30 seconds. And you would do the same type of testing every 2 months until it was down to 12 kids going to the sports school. And then you come to sports school, yes?
Were there thousands of people fighting to get one of those 150 initial spots? How were they selected?
Well, yeah, just my little team from my countryside, we had about 10 kids. And not everybody could go. The coach would go, I love you, kid, but this testing is not for you because you're not going to make it to the 50 to go to the second round, right? So there was a pre-selection, but yeah, probably there was some 500 kids in total. And 150 got selected from their own teams, from their own coaches to go to that first testing. And then they kicked 100 out, kept 50 for the second round.
Was that a big deal for your family, for you to get selected to do this?
Yes, absolutely. Because I'm from the countryside, there's 3,000 people living in my little hometown. And then moved to a sports school in the capital of the country. That was a big deal. Yeah, parents were happy. Mom was crying. I was almost crying. But hey, Dad was a hard man, old-fashioned. He goes, boys don't cry. And if you cry, they have to go, boys don't cry, boys don't cry, boys don't cry. So he didn't cry, because otherwise Dad would let you know what he thinks about it. So Mom did the crying for both of us. And yeah, so they were happy and proud. Then you come to a sports school, living in the dorms. In the dorms, at the dorms? In the dorms, right? Dormitory.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, like whatever, second or third day, the older kids come and go, hey, little kid, go and wash my bike. And then you had two options. You want to have an easy day? You go, okay, I'll wash your bike. Or the second you said, no, I'm not going to wash your bike, you had to go like this, because they would beat you up to make you wash the bike. So you either had to like sell yourself as expensive as possible, fight back as hard as you can, knowing that you're going to lose, but at least cause enough damage that they would leave you alone the next time. Or you would give in and go, okay, go and wash the bike. And looking back at that now, I believe the teachers and the people, they took care of us in the dorms or dormitory. They would, I think, on purpose look the other way, because they wanted survivors. They wanted the hardest of the hard ones. Survivors, people, they can deal with situations like that. So natural selection at its finest. You know, survival of the fittest, that you were looking the other way. Like, nope, it's part of the selection process. Let them deal with it. And needless to say, within a month, two of the kids went, I had enough of this, I go home. And 3 months later, when we had the Christmas holidays, another two kids wouldn't come back. So in 3 months, we lost 4 out of the 12. So yeah, it was tough, but it definitely did build your character.
What was your life like in the town where you grew up? Did you work when you were a kid before you went to sports school?
No, that was really uncommon in Germany, that kids would work or do the lawn. See, Germany, East Germany, we had a normal life like people expect, but everything just smaller and slower. Apart from food, everything was scarce. To find a good pair of jeans, good luck. 2 months of searching and going to shops. A nice pair of shoes, 2 months. See, in Germany, if children are born in the US, within the first months or weeks, people sign their own kids in for a college fund, or they start a college fund for the kids. In Germany, you would then register your kid for a car. And about 16 to 20 years later, your kid would be on the first line, like called up, hey, we got a brand new car, you can come and pick it up. So we never had enough cars even. Everything was scarce or harder to get. So there was just not enough work there for kids to be done. What sometimes on the countryside happened, they would allow kids at the age of 14, 15, 16 to do a license to drive a tractor to help the farmers on the field, on an empty field, basically just steering the tractor straight, turn around and back. So that was, but no kids, they were already 15 to 16 by that age. But I left before I would come to that age.
When you went to the sports school and cycling became this very central part of your life, did you imagine that one day you might ride in the Tour de France?
No, not at all, because we were on the other side of the Iron Curtain. And just to be clear about that, see, the winner writes history, okay? On the West German side, the Americans won the war, so they wrote history. On our side, the Russians won the war. They wrote history. So, from kindergarten age on, I learned that I live on the good side of the Iron Wall. And you guys were behind on the dark side, on the bad side, because you were the, what do you call, if I translate it right, that's official school words. The dying and parasitical mean imperialism. That was your side. You lived on the dark side. We lived on the good side of the Iron Curtain. That was the official version we learned in school. And basically professionals back then, they told us they prostitute themselves for money. And we would be just doing it for the honor of it, because we were amateurs. Later then, of course, if you're not completely stupid, you understand that you're basically a government professional. You live like a professional, you do your sport like a professional athlete, but you don't have a private sponsor, but you have the government sponsoring you. So you live the same lifestyle, but you're still called amateur. So yeah, back then we did not see the wall falling down anytime soon. So it was just unthinkable to think about the West or riding in the West. My big goal was the peace race, the East European Tour de France, the peace race. Lovely idea, because as you can imagine, us Germans, we have done so many horrible things to our neighbors in World War II, right? And we brought so much destruction and pain to them. After the war ended, or we lost the war and we were defeated, to rebuild some trust and some understanding between, the countries, East Germany, Poland, the Czech Republic, they came up with the idea of the peace race, a race that would go through all three countries, and that would, clockwise, it would one day start in Berlin, pass through Poland, and finish in the Czech Republic. Next year, it would start in Poland, pass through the Czech Republic, and finish in Germany. So they would always change around so that everybody gets a fair chance of start and finish and of cities. It was a really good idea to reinstall some trust and understanding between the countries, to go, they're actually humans like you and me. They're not different, It was a good idea. Of course, it got then misused by our political system. But the original idea, I liked that. I could see how it made sense to reinstall some understanding, some peace, some friendship, some respect for each other, because we were all in Eastern Europe. So we better got together and try to, make it work out together. So that was the big goal, peace race. That was the big Tour de France of the Eastern Bloc.
And as you had your time at sports school, you get past this initial gladiator style initiation, this survival of the fittest, which sounds, honestly, it sounds a lot like initiation into a street gang or someone's first day in prison. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, we had a month of a lot of fights and scratches, blue eye, ripped off hair. We had a month of an intense month until people, fighting out the pecking order. It was literally that. You had to fight out the pecking order.
And then you have this goal of getting in the peace race. During your time in sporting school, did you have a pretty linear progression, or were there moments when it wasn't clear that you would continue to advance?
Clearly, there was moments like that. So I come from a very harmonic, protected family. And in my little town, I guess I was, at least in my age group, I was the king of the town. I had my little gang with friends. Then you come to the sports school and there's just older ones, meaner ones, friendly ones as well. So it was a lot of stress for me, harsh environment. They picked up the speed in school, in training. And I was back then, I kind of stopped developing. I was like a late developer, right? So at the age of 15, I was maybe biological age 13 and a half. So I struggled with keeping up with the older guys. I mean, at the age of 14, 15 at sports school, I had kids in my class, they needed to shave. I'm like, what the heck? I had like 2 hairs on one hair on each cheek. And these guys, they needed to shave twice a week or 3 times a week. I'm like, what the heck? So of course, they were much faster and stronger than me. So every year, you had to do a certain amount of placings or wins or results or timings, number of push-ups, number of chin-ups, or whatever, increase your time on the track in the 2 or 3 kilometer pursuit. And I just managed to, just passed it. So it was hard. I was far from winning. At the age of 10, when I started, I basically won every race I entered except the national championships. But every other race I won. Running, cycling, crits, road races, I won all of them. And then at the sports school, I was far from winning. I was, happy to arrive in the first 20, 30 riders. So there was a harder moment, away from home, being a little homesick. They increased the speed in training. The teachers were demanding more than my teachers back home. So there was definitely some hard times. Where then I go, okay, do I want to give up? But then, no, I cannot give up. I gotta go to the end. If they send me home, there's nothing I can do. But giving up by myself, I never liked that idea.
Who was the best athlete in the sports school when you were there that you looked up to the most?
We had some really good sports at the Olympics, World Championships. So we had about 10 different sports. We had track and field, swimming, male and female, handball, volleyball, cycling, boxing, weightlifting, gymnastics, ice skating, like speed skating and figure skating. So we had a lot of Olympic and European champions there. So you could basically pick what you want. I don't know if you know any of them back in these days, but there were a few really good ones.
Give me a name. Who was your favorite?
Ulf Timmermann, track and field. He did the short put, and he was Olympic champion or record holder, world record holder or world champion. And you could see him like every day, carrying his own little bag, going to train, eat the same food in the same place like you, sitting like basically on the table next to you, like a big, strong man. And you see him training like, in the morning, in the afternoon, twice a day, every day. And you go, yeah, I can see why he is world champion or world record holder. So he was one I did look up because he seemed to be so normal and approachable. I was only 14 and he was at his prime back then. He was so normal and approachable, and you could see how much hard work he put in and how he interacts with his team, like giving tips, hey, why don't you do it like this? Or why don't you do this instead of that? So, yeah, he was one of my early heroes.
In your entire career, who do you regard as your favorite and most effective coach?
Well, I was lucky enough, 2 years in that sports school. Then we had a new coach who just retired and finished his coach diploma at the university, Peter Stein. And we had him at the age 16, 17, 18, and then basically until I turned professional. So he did help me a lot. He was almost like my dad in Berlin. I stayed at his place for a few times. He invited me for barbecues and whatever dinner. So he always had an open ear for me. He was definitely a coach that helped me to develop.
And for who you are as a person, is that what you felt brought out the highest expression of your talent?
I believe already early, back in my hometown, there were 3 brothers, Eichberg. Hans-Jürgen was the oldest, the boss of it. He told me how to sit on a bike and about the pedal stroke, spinning the legs and all that. Erich was the second oldest or second youngest in the middle. He told me about discipline and how things work. Like, if in the winter months, if we would have training, we would often play soccer for half an hour to warm up. So he's standing there with his whistle and the soccer ball, and we are in front of him, right? Basically getting ready. And if we didn't stand still or talk too much, he would then just take the ball and kick the ball as hard as he could into any one of us. He wouldn't even aim to punish us. So a few times after that, you go, whoa, I better be like this. If the coach comes into the room, yes, coach, we are ready. So discipline. And straight action and punishment if that didn't work out. That's very effective. Painful, I'm not sure if it's right or not, but it was painful and effective. There was no time for wokeness back then, You listen, you do the job, or you suffer. Easy peasy, easy to understand. And then we had the youngest, Ingo Eichberg, and he actually made me into the fighter, into the breakaway rider, into somebody that works, that never gives up. So a combination of these three brothers shaped little kid Jensi at my coach in Berlin, Dieter Stein. Then, if I'm allowed to say so, he just polished the raw diamond to make it shiny, if that makes sense.
Is the father of 6 kids, and as someone who's known for being such a tough person, how have you approached fatherhood?
Learning process. You grow with the challenge, my friend. Fortunately, I'm a soft dad. It might overlap one generation. My dad was hard, fair but hard, and I guess that's what makes me softer, right? So, for example, it's one thing that's changed over generations. You just don't hit your kids anymore. That's just a no-go. Back then, it was perfectly normal, If you wouldn't listen or if you would do something stupid, butch, And this is just unthinkable these days. So that is a difference. And kids are just easy. They are cute. It's easy to like them. They're so cute, But I also realized I cannot expect them to function like me. They have to find their own way. The best you can do as a parent is prepare your children for the life out there. Don't push them in the direction you want them to go. Don't live your dreams through your children. That is the worst. I've seen it at so many other sports when kids, moms or dads yell at their kids, do this, go, it's a kid. Let him have fun. Or let him have fun. Don't yell at your child in front of everybody. Why don't you follow his wheel? Or why don't you pass the ball over there? Like, shut the heck up. Let the kids alone. So I'm okay with that. It's challenging when kids start talking back to you. And of course, you have seen some things in life. And if you go, hey, kids, listen, don't touch the hot plate. And they touch it, you go, didn't I just tell you? And there's so many different examples. No, don't do this. Don't say that. Don't do this with your friends. Or, and you go, oh, I told you. But your job is also be there to pick him back up when they failed. A tip for parents is out there. It is so painful to see your children fall. But sometimes they have to fall to learn to get back up. So control yourself. I was maybe too soft, Let them fall every now and then so they would learn to get back up and they learn resilience. They learn, okay, I can get back up by myself. There's life after a crash. It might be a mental crash, a physical crash. It might be a crash in school. Sometimes you need to experience your children some frustration and pain. Sometimes, I say, not all the time, sometimes, okay? So they learn how to work with that and to get themselves out of that hole of frustration or pain. That is a very, very important lesson, and I believe I failed a little in that. I was too soft, too friendly, too nice for the kids. Every now and then you have to let them out there to be themselves.
Jens, 6 kids, you're still on the road quite a bit. You're doing commentary at races. You're traveling to events like Tour de Tucson, where we met and got to spend a little bit of time together. And something that really struck me in Tucson, you look like you could have finished being a world tour professional yesterday, and you easily look 10 years younger than you are. How do you do it, man?
Thanks for the nice words, first of all. This year, I actually did train a little more than other years. So see, I'm a big fan of the idea leading by example. So I cannot be overweight and then tell people about motivation, about discipline, about becoming a good athlete. I cannot tell my children to live a healthy life if I double my weight. Plus, also, I like to stay attractive for my woman, for my wife. You know, I still want to be good looking for my wife. And I realized I feel so much more alive when I'm fit and healthy and ready. I have more energy. I be more awake. I embrace life more when I'm fit. And it might be a hard process to start it. It's like a big rock laying in front of you, and you need all your power to start it, to push it, to start it moving. But once that big rock is rolling, then after a month of it, you just need to go tip, 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 because the process is started. And after a month, 2 months, you go, oh, a day without workout, I don't feel happy. So you do your workout because you like it. There's this incredible feeling of accomplishment, of pride when you finish your run or your bike ride. You sweat all the bad stuff out of your body, you shower, you wash it off, and you feel cleaned inside out. You feel just like a better person after a good little effort. Go, go, go.
Yeah, if this year, Jens, is a comeback year, was there a point when things got a little out of balance for you and you weren't feeling good about your health, or you wanted to chase a new goal that pushed you in this direction?
Well, see, when I stopped my career, 2014, I did not touch the bike until Christmas. You know, I looked at the bike, maybe tomorrow. Next week, maybe next week. But then in January, I'm like, okay, now I feel like I want to do some exercise, some sweating. I need some sort of physical activity. And I like to eat. So doing some training helps you to burn calories, and so you can eat more. I like to eat. Definitely there's periods where you just train less or you have no motivation. Also sometimes if there's stress with the kids and the family and, or the school, you have to drive them to school, then university, pick them back up, drive them to their friends, drive them to sports. You go, bloody hell, it's 6:30 at night and I don't feel like going on a bike now. I just want to eat and relax. So there's moments like that as well. But also now kids get older and, they become more self-sufficient, so it's less driving. And maybe it's a moment also to praise my wife, Stephanie. She understood that sport is important to me. So she goes, you know what? You have an hour. Just go and run, because I can see you itching to go. Just go and run. Or, hey, we go Saturday morning, we go horse riding with the girls. And you just have a free morning. Just go and ride your bikes. So I do some of that. She gives me the freedom I need, because she also knows I'm a happier person when I come home. I'm happy because I did my exercises, and I'm really grateful towards her because she gave me this 1 or 2 hours for myself to train.
That's how my wife, Molly, is as well. When something like Tour de Tucson prologue experience comes up and they invite me down, she says, please go. Please go do that event. Please have fun, and you'll be better when you come back. Looking forward, Jens, what goals do you have for yourself? What have you not done that you want to do in life?
I was lucky this year, like a long time dream of me came alive. In Great Britain, it's a fairly known and famous Land's End John O'Groats. So you start on the bottom left in Cornwall, where it's Land's End, because if you jump in the water Land's End and swim, you hit New York on the other side of the ocean. There's no other land in between. That's why it's called Land's End. And then you go through Cornwall, go further up north, Wales, back into England, and you come to Scotland. On the top right corner, John O'Groats. It's a little, there's a ferry, it's a cape, or cup. You can see the Orkney and Shetland Islands from there. It's about 1,500 kilometers, 880 miles, I believe it was. I did it in 9 days, and it was just fantastic. It was a road trip. I took my wife, 3 kids, and my good old Ford Galaxy family van. Squeezed the bike in there, the kids, their luggage, and it was just fantastic. I made it publicly, said, okay, I'm going to start. I believe I started on the 9th of August in Land's End, 8 a.m. And I had about 20 people there waiting for me. I said, okay, I'm going to follow the road, and I'm going to be at 9, I'm going to be in the next city, and in the next city. And then I'm going to hit a Dartmoor. There's a famous pub with a former prison across. Said I'm going to be at that pub at 1:30, and people waiting there. So I was never, ever alone for the entire close to 900 miles. And I met about 1,000 people, 1,000 different people. It was just a fantastic event. See the family in the morning, kiss them goodbye, see them at night at the next city or hotel. Had a few speeches, track bikes supported me. So I went from a few track shops to the next track shop. We saw castles, you know. We even had a swim in Loch Ness. I said, kids, listen, my second last stage finishes in Scotland in Inverness. Inverness is only 5 miles from Loch Ness. You know, where Nessie, the famous monster, said, no matter how cold or how cold it is, how tired we are, we gotta go and swim with Nessie. So we all went in there, except my wife said, no, I just take pictures and video clips of you, how you get eaten. I'm not going to go in the water. But the kids, my 3 daughters, we went into the water, so we did swim with Nessie. You know, we saw was it Runkeld? No. What was the name of the city? The most besieged castle in the history of the country. The most besieged. So that castle was in wars all the time, you know, with the Scottish tribes and the Brits. We saw Tintern Abbey, where they made songs about it, did videos about it in Wales. We drove past the house of the Harry Potter woman, Joan K. Rowling, the writer of Harry Potter. We drove past her house in Birmingham. So I saw so many cool things. It was a great trip. That made me super happy. But yeah, what's next? I don't have too much time to train, but if I could choose, I still, every now and then, I keep looking at that crazy snow dog race in Alaska.
Iditarod.
Yeah, that's the one. I struggle to pronounce it. Iditarod. Yeah, I keep looking at that. But yeah, I don't know.
You want to do the dog race, or do you want to do the bike version? Because they have Bike as well as Iditarod.
I know. I keep hesitating. I think one day I like the bike part, the other one I like the dog part better. I'm not sure. That would be something interesting. Race across America, I never was too keen on it for whatever reason. Apart from that, I mean, if I would have free time, what an adventure it would be. Alaska, all the way down to Fireland, Sierra del Fuego, Patagonia in Chile. What a trip that would be on a mountain bike or on a gravel bike. What a trip that would be. 15,000 miles all across the continent. But I don't have the time to train for it. I don't have the resources to make it happen. But that would be 2 visions. Maybe next year I just go north to south from Germany, from the Danish border, straight south to the Swiss or the Austrian border. That's about 700-800 miles. Yeah, I guess 600-700 miles. Maybe that's something planned for next year.
You don't have the time or resources yet, but one day you may. And Jens, what would you say to people out there? Because, of course, this podcast, Choose the Hard Way, is about how hard things build stronger people who have more fun. And it's always more fun to do it with people you love, your friends and family. For anybody out there that might have a big idea, like one of the ideas you just shared, and is hesitating to start, what might you tell them?
Well, there's the Illuminati. Is it rule number 4, number 5? Harden the fuck up. That is one. No, but more serious. Sometimes I had obstacles in my way, goals I want to achieve, tactics, races, and they go, "Hey, Jens, are you backing up?" I'm like, "No, I'm just going back few steps to gain more speed. And I'm going to run straight forward into that obstacle and I'm going to crush it. You know, I'm not moving back because I'm afraid I'm moving back to get more momentum. So I hit the target harder. Also, 3 points. Don't let the naysayers talk you down. Believe in yourself. Aim for the stars. If you don't hit the stars, at least you hit the moon. That's a lot further than everybody else is going. So have self-belief beyond reason. Don't let the doubters and the naysayers talk you down. Second, there's no shortcuts. You gotta prepare. You gotta work it. You know, plan your work your plan. Shortcuts look tempting, but that's why it's called the highway to hell and the little stairway to heaven, because that's much harder. And then, just remember, who are your real friends? How do you get there, where you are now? What made you successful? Where are you from? Don't forget your roots. And then you're good. Okay, here's the last words of wisdom. If you always follow somebody, you always save, but you never leave your own footprints on a path of life. And isn't that all what we want?
This is Andrew Vontz. A big thanks to Jens Voigt for joining me today on Choose the Hard Way. You can find Jens on the gram at the Yenzy, and I'm at Hardway Pod. Shoot me a message and let me know what you liked in this episode and who you'd like to hear from next. Please take 3 seconds and hit 5 stars and subscribe to Choose the Hard Way wherever you watch or listen. The number one thing you can do to support this project so I can bring you more of these conversations is to become a paid subscriber to the Choose the Hard Way Substack. That's at alwaysthehardway.substack.com, or just search for Choose the Hard Way on Substack. If you're a senior executive, professional athlete, or political leader who's ready to become a world-class communicator, One Real Voice is here to help. When you're ready to be great, reach out to hello@onerealvoice.com or DM me at HardwayPod. With over $1 trillion in transactions to date, blockchain.com is your trusted partner on your crypto journey. Go to blockchain.com to get started today. When you want to have fun on a bicycle and experience the pinnacle of cycling technology, then it's time to get on a Lauf. Lauf is the Apple of bike design. They make elegant products that just work better, and they're a lot of fun to ride. Check them out at laufcycles.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on Choose the Hard Way.